Welcome in, everybody. Time to talk some pucks. And we've got our guy, Brock Sheahan, who's the head coach of the Chicago Steel, joining us tonight. Brock, it is nice to see you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So the Chicago Steel, even for some, people who maybe love the NHL, they don't have kids. If they're not familiar with youth hockey, for the uninitiated, the Chicago Steel is the USHL team here in Chicago, and people might hear that and go, what exactly is the USHL? So give us like the quick, 30-second version, youth hockey for dummies. Like, what exactly does the USHL mean, and what kind of kids are playing for you?
Yeah. So the USHL is junior hockey at its highest level. It's Tier 1 junior hockey. So our kids come from all over the world. We have players, obviously American players from all over the country, spanning California to New York. We have kids from all over Canada. We have kids from Finland and Sweden on our team. And it's a stop before they play college hockey for the vast majority of our guys. So I'd say 95% of them. The other 5% have played pro hockey before or are ineligible. So that's kind of the short version of that. They live away from home. They live with billet families, similar to like lower level minor league baseball. And it's what they do. They're passionate about it, and they all have dreams of playing professional hockey.
Yeah, for people too, like at least a dozen players from the Steel alone have made it to the NHL over the years.
Yes.
So many players go through the USHL and then play at the highest level. Like 9 out of every 10, I think, go on to play Division I hockey. And like you were saying, it's a sort of like the next step when these kids are wrapping up high school to go get a taste of amateur hockey at a really, really high level. The difference in Canada is you lose eligibility. Is that right? Sometimes Canadian kids come here to play because then they can go play college hockey.
So I'm Canadian. I'm from Alberta, Canada. I played at the University of Notre Dame. There's different levels of junior hockey in the United States. So we're Tier 1. There are Tier 2 leagues. There are Tier 3 leagues. In Canada, the Tier 1 league, which is like the Canadian Hockey League, which is made up of the Western Hockey League. So that's from British Columbia, some of the northern states, all the way to Manitoba. And then there's the Ontario Hockey League, which has American teams in it as well, in like Michigan, Pennsylvania. And then the Quebec Major Junior League, which also has teams from the United States in it. But they get paid a little bit, and they're considered professional, so they can't play college hockey. Tier 2 junior, so British Columbia Hockey League, Alberta Junior League, those kids are looking to get scholarships. So that's what my path was. Tier 2 junior in Canada, University of Notre Dame to professional hockey.
And the draft was this week for you guys. Is that right? The last couple of days?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? The draft was this week for us. So it's 2 phases. Phase 1 is 2004 birth year. And then phase 2 could be 2004 birth year all the way up to 2000s.
It's crazy that I graduated high school in 1994. So now the 2004 birth years, 10 years after I graduated, are playing juniors, which makes me feel really old. That's kind of ridiculous.
And we drafted players. If you look at our draft list, most of them are Canadians or Americans and Canadians, but we have Finns, Russians. So
what's the scouting like? How involved are you? How big is the scouting department? And this is a crazy time. Obviously, you guys are doing it like you've probably never done it before. But what is the scouting like, and what kind of input do you have in that, Brock? Like the kind of kid you're looking for that you guys want to draft to the Chicago Steel?
So that's a great question. And throughout the league, it's different, right? Each team is staffed differently. We have an unbelievable ownership in Larry Robbins. So we have a pretty big staff for not only a junior program, but comparative to even maybe some pro levels. So we have a general manager, Ryan Hardy, and then a director of player development or player personnel, Tristan Musser, so they run our scouting department, which we have scouts. We have scouts in Europe, a couple in like Finland, Sweden, a couple in Canada. Mostly we have Eastern states covered, Minnesota, Michigan area, Detroit. So we got scouts all over the place. Those are ran by Ryan. Tristan Musser basically does that, but they basically do the bulk of gathering data and then finding players that fit our style of play. From my perspective, it's really nice because in a lot of junior programs, the head coach could also be the general manager. if we were in season still, if it wasn't for COVID and us being isolated, we'd be in playoffs. So like last year we were in playoffs while the draft was going on.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a little bit different for each team. My involvement comes to when we're looking for like the higher draft picks. When we get our list smaller, I'll see what those players look like. But we have a great connection between our general manager, our scouts, and our hockey staff in what we want our players to look like. So we have certain criteria, and if our players fit that, we'll draft them. If they don't fit that, they're really not on our list. And I think that has been actually one of the biggest pieces, besides the resources we have, the great people we have, is that the style of play that we want to play, which is high offense, puck possession, really bright players. The players we draft fit that. So they fit our style of play, whereas a lot of times you look even at the pro level, there's players that don't fit necessarily what the coach wants to do. There's a disconnection between the coaching staff and general manager and scouts. We try to put everything together and have that all be cohesive.
All right, so that leads nicely into what I was going to ask you next, because I wanted you to talk about sort of your path to coaching. Greg Moore, I think, was the coach, got the Toronto Marlies job back in December. You got promoted just a few months ago, but hold on, sorry, I'm getting a call. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I had the same thing happen.
So what was, I guess we'll start with this. Like, what was the transition for you, like having to take over sort of mid-season, being younger in this role? Like and you guys were cruising along until this pandemic hit, and you guys had a halt the season and you couldn't get.
Yeah.
What was that transition like?
It was a pretty smooth transition. So Greg and I, when Ryan took over as GM, he hired Greg. Greg hired me shortly after as a associate head coach, and I left Division a Division I school in College of the Holy Cross in Worcester, Mass, where things were going pretty well for my family and I. So there was a little bit of a risk, but when I took the job, I trusted so much in the vision that Ryan and Greg had. It was really exciting for the people that we get to work with, the kids I knew that we were going to have in the program that fit what we wanted to do. But it was also a plan from the beginning that when Greg left that I would take over. That was part of what had attracted me to the job in the first place. So we had always kind of knew that. And after the season we had last year, which a lot of people didn't expect us to have, we were picked like 15th in the league. And we lost in the Clark Cup finals, so people didn't really think that we were going to be very good. And just we kind of knew the connection, what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking to do with their organization as far as what I just talked about with the player development, the style of play, some of the things that we do here, Greg was already doing. So he was on the short list, I think, for them. And we kind of knew that. So I had expected this transition to happen this summer. So we were ready for it. But it would happen once Mike Babcock got let go. We had an inclination that this could happen. He would at least get a look. So we were ready for it. And the transition for, I think, our players and our staff wasn't as great as you would think, because I had been here from the start, right, and was highly involved in what we were doing. Greg is an extremely bright offensive mind. I had a little bit more of the defensive side. We both learned a ton from each other. It was great to be able to be involved a lot as an assistant or associate. So the players had already had a good relationship with me, and I felt like we were so happy for Greg and excited for him to move on. It reflected well on everybody involved in the program, especially the players. And I think they were really excited, and they had my back right from day one.
So someone like you played at a very high level. Brock mentioned he played at Notre Dame. You were an alternate captain one year. You played in a Frozen Four. So you know what it's like to play at that level. These kids are trying to get there. For coaches like yourself, when you're at this level in juniors, what, besides just the system of play on the ice that you're trying to teach these kids, and you want to play fast, and you want to encourage them to and work in encouraging them to be better skilled players and practice hard. Like, what are the other things that you feel like you're trying to teach them at this age? Because they're still at a pretty impressionable age, I would think, as they're trying to progress through their hockey career.
Yeah, I think that this age group, even more so than coaching at the college level, is extremely rewarding, right? Because we get some players like we had Owen Power at 15 years old. You know, we have kids that are 16 years old away from home, um, you know, learning to become young men, just getting comfortable with who they are off the ice and interacting with one another. I feel like our goal is to have them be complete players and people. That's really what we're looking to do. And what we're fortunate to be able to do is we spend a lot of time with them. Like we're not just at the rink for a couple hours. Our players, so most of our players are young. They're compared to the league, even we're young. We'll bring players in a little bit younger than some of the other teams. So they're usually in school.
Yeah.
Most of our kids take online school. Some are in brick and mortar, and then there's kids that are out of high school. They have like a gap year or two before they go into college. They're still going to go into college. So they're at the rink from like 9 a.m. to like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, almost like a job. The kids that are in online school, they have scheduled study hall. We have, academic advisor that helps them through it. And my bigger point is we're with these kids all the time. We're doing video meetings. We're just talking to them and we're helping them grow as people, and seeing the love for the game that they have, and then being able to have a positive influence on the way they handle themselves is pretty rewarding.
Have you guys been able to keep in pretty good contact with them, through all this too? Like what is
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah. We did Zoom calls. It was a very weird ending to the year for everybody involved in sports in general. For us, we were on our second 13-game winning streak. We had just swept the second place team in the league. We're having our regular week. And Thursday, we're getting ready to play Green Bay on Saturday and Sunday. And we have a meeting. We had been on the ice for a morning skill session, just like normal. And then we had a 1 o'clock meeting like normal, but that meeting was obviously a lot different. We had told the kids so at that point it was suspended.
Right.
So we had given the kids the opportunity to go home, but most of the kids left like all their clothes and stuff at their billet families. They left a lot of their gear because we didn't know at that moment. The information we had at hand, we were hoping to be back in 3 weeks, whatever, 4 weeks, maybe, so we never had, it was an unnatural ending to the year. So we did our exit meetings over Zoom. We've been in touch with our guys. It's my birthday today. I was getting texts from most of the group. Yeah, 36 years old today, so I'm starting to feel a little bit older. And then as this keeps going, we'll continue to stay in touch with them. Try to call a couple kids a week, and just continue to stay positive. It's tough. Like these kids want to be in the gym.
Sure.
They want to be on the ice. Yeah. They want to be getting better, and they're doing their best to take advantage of this time with their families and try to get better in some area of their game.
Yeah. How many kids you think are going to be, and who knows what's going to go on with the NHL draft?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if they've finalized anything yet, or when they might do that, but you guys are going to have a fair number of kids, I would think, pretty high profile from all the success this year. SI just had a big write-up about you guys. If people don't know that, last month, the Chicago Steel were featured in SI. So there's a lot of buzz. You're going to have a significant number of kids probably get drafted, right?
Yeah, like it's hard to tell. Like I've talked to probably every NHL team in the last couple of weeks, multiple times. I know our GM Ryan Hardy. He was a scout for the Boston Bruins. He has a ton of connections. He's on the phone all the time. I don't know when the draft is. They don't know when the draft is. We have. I think counting our affiliate players on Central Scouting, we have 10 kids. So 6 on our roster, and then the affiliate players. So these are kids that we drafted. They're on an affiliate list. Some kids played games for us this year. Some they played prep school or high school, or they're playing midget hockey. All 4 will play for us next season. So those 4 could be drafted and then playing on our roster. But, like guys like Brendan Brisson, who's a potential first-round pick, Sam Colangelo, potential first-round pick, Sean Farrell, depending on the team, first, second, third round, whatever, those 3 guys are for sure going to hear their names called. And then I would be surprised, like Luke Reed should hear his name called. Gunnar Wolf Fontaine, our goaltender Victor Ostman, and then there's kids that aren't even on the central scouting list that, teams have. Each NHL team has their own list.
Yeah.
Just because a kid's not on the central scouting list doesn't mean he's going to be drafted. So Matty D. St. Phal led the league in scoring. I know there's interest in him. Jimmy Dowd Jr., one of our best defensemen. Josh Doan, who's going to be a really good player. He's just scratching the surface. Do all of those guys go? That would be amazing. We would be ecstatic. I don't think so. But I just named like 13 players. You know what I mean? No, if counting the affiliates, even more. So we're hopeful that guys go, but really, when we talk to our guys, it doesn't really matter where they go. And even for some of them, I don't think it matters if they get drafted. Some of those kids, I think, are going to find their way no matter what. Like a Matty D. St. Phal, who led the league in scoring, is going to Wisconsin next year. I hope he gets drafted. I don't think it's necessary for him to get drafted to find his way to the NHL. I believe in. I've seen what he's done the last 2 years, the way he works at his game, how much better he's gotten, both on and off the ice, as a player and as a person, just growing up. I think I would bet money on him that he finds his way to the NHL, whether he's drafted or not.
Do the NHL teams just kind of lean on you guys too to get an idea about who the kid is? I mean, they can see.
Yeah, they do.
That, right? So
they do. Like they spend a lot of time. Man, the NHL scouts work hard. They're in the rink all the time. There's guys that saw us play like 7 or 8 times this year. So they have a good feel for players like Brendan, with Sam and Sean and Luke. Like they know for Gunnar Wolf, like they know what these guys can do, and then they'll talk to us. They'll interview them. Most of those guys were interviewed in person by, I would say, close to a third to half the league before the season got canceled anyways.
Yeah.
I know a lot have done their phone or Zoom interviews the last couple of weeks, and they'll continue to do more as it gets closer to whatever that date is, but I think we're fortunate to have kids that really, and credit to the work that our scouting staff does, that Ryan and Tristan do. We have kids that really want to be players, kids that work at their game, and that's why they get better, and that's why they're in this position, because they burn to be players.
What was so you played at ND? I mean, Jeff Jackson's kind of become a little bit of a legend. I mean, what was it like playing there? And you played in that final, right, in 2008?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. No, it was. I had a great experience at the University of Notre Dame. So my first year there, we won 5 games. Year 2, we had new coaching staff other than Andy Slaggert. They kept him on, who recruited a lot of the players there. We had good players. We were just young. And we went from 5 wins to 13 wins to 32 wins. And then the last year, we won like 28 or something like that and lost in the national championship game. So set a foundation for the program moving forward. And Coach Jeff Jackson, Paul Pooley, and Andy Slaggert, they're still there. The staff that I had my sophomore year, they're still there. They've just done a great job with the program. They got the funding for the rink my senior year when we lost in the national championship during that Frozen Four run. And it's an amazing facility, but more importantly, there's great people running that program. The school's amazing. It's where I met my wife, my best friends. Wow. I had a great time there. So I'm very fortunate to have had that experience, and it's helped me so much in my career, whether I was going to continue on in the hockey business or not. I felt very good when I hung my skates up that I was in a good position to be successful after hockey.
Did you kind of know that you were going to stick, that you would choose this path, that you coach? Did you always want to do that?
Yeah, I think if you ask my wife, who's from Indiana, she had never been around hockey. She early on knew that hockey was going to be a part of our life for a long time. I think that if we didn't want a family, or if I was just a single, I would have played till I was like 40, like anywhere. You know what I mean? So I'm not surprised at all. If you ask my brother or sister or my mom, it fits. And you never know. It's a hard business. You really do. I think to be a coach, you really have to be passionate about what you do. You really have to put others first. If you don't do that, I don't think that you have a very long career in this business.
Yeah, it's got to be tough, like to say, okay, I'm gonna, from a playing standpoint, it's got to be tough when you get to that realization that, all right, maybe now is time the time to end it. I don't know how you do that. Like you said, maybe it was just all about family, but when you're trying and you played at such a high level, like it's got to be a tough thing to come to grips with as a player.
No, I think it is. I remember the summer. I had Jason Nightingale was the volunteer coach at the University of Notre Dame for 2 years. He's got a PhD in I can't remember what it is, like aerospace engineering. He works for the Buffalo Sabres in analytics. He went from there to the Buffalo Sabres. He's been there for 7 years now. And I was still training to play, and I was looking at going back to Europe or possibly Austria, and the contract wasn't coming. And he was like, I'm going to leave. So Coach Jackson's going to ask you if you want to do this. My wife's from South Bend, so I always trained there in the summer with a couple other guys that played pro in the NHL and American League in Europe. And he's like, I'm not going to open it up if you want to do it. It was easy for me to do it because we were able to live at my wife's grandmother's basement suite. My wife had a good job in South Bend at a law firm, so I could put everything into it for a year and see if it was something that I figured I would be good at and wanted to do it, but you don't know until you're actually in it. Yeah. So it was a perfect situation for that. And after I said yes, a week later, I had the best contract offered to me ever that I'd had in my career since my first contract with Wilkes-Barre and Pittsburgh. And I was like, really? And I'd already kind of committed, and I was like, well, what's another year in Austria or another? At that point, I had kind of moved on and decided to not go back on my commitment to volunteer coach that year. And I'm glad I did it because I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't make that decision.
Working out. That's good. So Alberta, you grew up in Alberta, Flames or Oilers?
Maple Leafs.
Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I was born in London, Ontario. So we grew up there till I grew up there till I was 8.
Okay.
So I stayed at Leafs. Yeah. But if you had to pick between the Alberta teams, I picked the Oilers.
You pick Oilers? All right. What else has quarantine been like for you? I mean, it's got to drive a coach crazy when you're.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. We've actually been doing something a little bit different. Everyone's doing Zoom calls a lot. We've done with our players. We did our exit meetings. Obviously, we do video. We always have projects, but and the NHL PA has done a good job, or Coaches Association has done a good job of putting on Zoom calls with different coaches and whatnot, and I feel like they're good, but we were like, let's try to do something a little bit different. So we've been a couple times a week, a staff member reaches out to somebody that they know in the business or in coaching in general, maybe even in a different sport. And we try to kind of have hour and a half, basically educational sessions with, we've done a bunch of analytics stuff, we talked to a professor that's into it. We've talked to coaches in Europe, soccer coaches. So we're just always trying to learn and get better. It is different for sure, especially for myself and Matty Deschamps, our other assistant. He has 4 kids. I have 2. So we're busy at home with the kids, but which is a positive in our business. You don't spend as much time with your family, especially during the year. So taking advantage of that time. But yeah, just hopeful that we get some certainty, obviously, with just when our camp is and that kind of stuff in the next couple of months,
Yeah. Who's the best player you played against in college that ended up making it to the NHL, or maybe he still is even in the NHL?
Best player I played against in college, I'm trying to think. Nathan Gerbe was an unbelievable college player. He's still playing. He's been up and down recently. But the reason I say that is the Frozen Four that we lost to Boston College. They beat North Dakota 6-1 in the semifinal game. He had 6 points. They beat us 4-1. He had 4.
Whoa. So on every goal he factored in.
He factored in on every goal in the Frozen Four.
That's pretty unbelievable.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Brock, listen, continued success. Love how important you guys are to, this next step, this transition for hockey too. And growing up here, I had buddies from high school that played in Green Bay and some guys that played around, and we know Adam Bursch real well, played in Green Bay. And, so many of the kids that experience the USHL have so many positive things to say about it. And the success of the Steel has been fabulous here in this last year and a half, this last 2 years. So continued success, keep it up. You're molding young hockey minds, which is a good thing. And probably just a stepping stone for you too, it sounds like, along the course of your coaching career. But good luck in the future, all right?
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, and stay healthy.
You too.